Welcome to Big Boy Crypto, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community in all of the interwebs. This is Around the Blockchain. We come to you Monday through Friday at 5:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about favorite topics. And today, with my favorite panel we've ever assembled, we're going to go ahead and get it going. On the top right, couldn't afford electricity more besides this neon sign. That's how bad a Terra Luna crash affected him. Talk about That Martini Guy. I think that Russian oil got too expensive in Europe. All right, then on the bottom right, he's coming from the Chipotle Training Center in the back of the building. Arcane Bear, holding it down. Make sure you show him some love. He was worried about his camera, but you know what?
That was great.
He's effervescent and glowing, and we love it. Speaking of glowing, we got Joe Parys holding it down. No, it's not his mom's apartment. He's back at his place. It's okay. It's you know, you had to turn that camera around maybe, but yeah, Joe Parys holding it down. Make sure you check him out, and also ending it on the top left, we have Ben Armstrong, who luckily we paid the lease 12 months in advance, so we're still in the building. They can't kick us out yet. All right, we're gonna
no layoffs here at BitBoy Crypto.
Yeah, we're not shrinking. We're still expanding, not just my waistline. All right, we're gonna be talking about a whole lot of liquidations, over $1 billion. Also, Binance, what are you doing freezing my Bitcoin? This is mine. Unfreeze it already. And like Ben alluded to, many layoffs across the sector. We're gonna get into that, but before we do, let's check out where are the markets. Certainly has to be better than yesterday, right? Well, we're still down, but it's single digits. Is that count as something? We have Bitcoin at 22,000, just barely holding on. And then Ethereum right above 1,100, 1,189. Arcane Bear, we're seeing some volatile action. We're seeing a lot of swings. We're going to get into the crazy amount of liquidations. With all these liquidations, are there any levels that you're looking at when it comes to support? How about that 20K psychological level? Is there anything there, perhaps?
I think we turn around in this area. So my first targets were around 29 with a potential slip to 22. We fell right to 22. I think the exciting part there was finding out that some of these companies like Celsius were in a predicament of a situation. And I think every time this sector has grown, it's grown kind of through trials by fire. So these are positive things. I wasn't really paying attention to Celsius at all. So to see it get put in a difficult position, they seem to be recovering, is good. I think it's positive for this ecosystem. You know, unlike what happened in 2008 for the banks, we don't have people that can just bail these guys out. So they have to go through and figure out and build something that actually works, which is fundamentally, really, I think the net resolve of a good piece of technology. I can't share any charts right now because my streaming computer wasn't working, but ultimately I think that these are the best times to be accumulating something like Bitcoin. And in the other sector as well, it's just, as long as we understand it's like venture capital, you have a high likelihood of a lot of things going to zero, then, you know, you can play your chips pretty easily. So
yeah, and you know, like you said, it's a good time to accumulate, but maybe not the best time to leverage trade. There's been lots of liquidations. The 23K, that 22K level broke a lot of people's bank there. Liquidations at midday yesterday had crossed 500 million. By the end of the day, it had crossed over $1 billion. Right now, we have Bitcoin pushing around 500 million just alone, and then with Ethereum, 294 million. So roughly 300 million just from those two. Over 200,000 people were liquidated. I want you to think about the town you live in. Think of 200,000 people. That many people were trading over leveraged and, you know, paid the price. The largest liquidation, Bitfinex, of course, $4.6 million wiped out in one trade. Now, Ben, obviously this volatility, you know, it's working for some people. Some people know how to trade it. A lot of people, you know, they're getting burnt out there. Do you expect even more volatility tomorrow with the Fed meeting? And, you know, do you have any predictions for that?
I'm kind of torn because it looks like right now at this point, it's definitely going to be 75 basis points. The talks we heard, Naomi was talking about yesterday, maybe 100. Seems like those have come down. Seems like it's definitely, there was a leak saying 75. So you really just have to ask yourself the question, like, is this priced in or not? For us that watch this market every single day, for people that watch this show every single day, like, you probably know it's 75. For the average person that's invested in stocks, they don't know. And you got to really probably ask yourself also, what is the percentage of the retail investor on the market versus the institutional investor who definitely knows it's going to be 75? So I can actually see a scenario now that it seems like, in my opinion, on this has changed just over the last few hours, even because it does look like it's 75 now. If it's 75, I think there's a chance that it bounces up. Now, here's a scenario I can see. It's 75. It's what we expect. But when the notes come out, right, we get the Fed meeting notes. They usually come out about 2 weeks later. In that script, it's probably going to talk about how they are considering maybe 100 basis points in the future, or maybe a continuation of 75 instead of 50. And then we will probably see another leg down at that point. So markets don't always do what we think they're going to do. Right now, everybody's thinking it's probably going to be a further leg down. Definitely a potential for tomorrow to do that. Maybe it's a little baked in. Maybe because almost every time we get the transcripts of the Fed meetings, we see a leg down because there's something in there that was just a little bit different than what we were originally told. So that's kind of a scenario I could see happening as well. I'm not expecting a bottom. I heard what Arcane Bear said, and kind of our ranges are similar, but I don't see a bottom until end of November. So.
Okay. Well, Joe, we're talking about the Fed meeting and the interest rates, which will make it more expensive for people to borrow money, which, then could put the brakes on the economy a little bit. Do you think there's any validity to the rumors that it's still going to be 50 and then the 75 basis points is kind of to give people this false narrative that it will be 75, so then when it's 50 we could expect some sort of upward momentum, maybe positive price action there? Or do you think that why would they try to manipulate us there? Where do you land on that?
Well, thanks, DZ, for the question. Ben, the BitSquad, for being here yet again on Around the Blockchain. Smash up the like button, guys. The Bitcoin price and everything else needs all the support it can get. But if I'm being honest, it's very difficult to know, right? Like, only they know what they're going to be doing. And I think we can sit here and try to predict as much as we want. But I'm more of an investor in long term, right? I wear the hoodie, hodl it, and also looking at fundamentals. And I'm more focused on that, whether, not as much to focus on like what the Fed is going to do and like whether they're going to, hike it from 50 to 75 or, a full 100. To me personally, if you're an investor in any of these assets, you have to really study them and you really have to understand the volatility, right? I think, with the economy and everything that's happening in the world today, sure, there certainly could be another leg down. I would not be surprised to see that. But to try to answer the question a little bit better here on what do I anticipate happening, I think that if you just look at the chart and look what's happened, I think that we've fallen pretty far pretty quickly. I would be more lenient into at least a small bounce here in the short term, and then potentially in a couple of months, maybe making one more leg down. It feels to me kind of like we're at that $6,000 level that we were a couple of years ago, right? Everyone's like, this could be it. We're at 6,000. That's really low. And then all of a sudden, bam, we had that one last drop, stayed down there for a little bit, and then that was the bottom. So that's what it feels like to me. That's just a gut feel, not financial advice. We will see what happens. But either way, I feel like your risk for reward now with how low the prices are, especially with altcoins, starting to get into a very interesting level, to say the least.
All right. Well, speaking of risk versus reward, we have Martini Guy. You bet all in on crypto. You gave up your past life, obviously rewarded for it. Chat, let us know in the comments where he should park his 10K. He's trying to find altcoins to hold for 1 year. And I'm interested to see how that goes. So let us know in the comments what you think Martini Guy should have. But, we're talking about rate hikes. Previously, the narrative was the war. Then the narrative became inflation. Now the narrative is rate hikes. In the Eurozone, what do you see as being maybe the next narrative driving the economy? And do you think there's going to be negative or positive?
I think the next narrative is actually positive in Europe. I think that in the UK especially, we're going through a transitionary period already with our current prime minister. And I don't think he'll spend more than 9 more months in office. And I expect the worst periods for the market are going to be over the next 9 months. Like when you're looking at the data right now, it's suggesting that recession, we're already pretty much there. And it's really not looking good. Like the video that I've made for my channel today is basically went through all of the data and information on the markets right now. and it was just saying, guys, you need to not put money in. You need to just like take a step back for like 6 months and just sit on the sidelines, because there is such a huge amount of risk buying into the market. Now the market is in this state, but at the same time, people like me, and I guess like BitBoy as well, bought in a period that didn't make any sense. And when we were buying the dip back then and kind of building businesses in crypto, everyone's going, are you insane? Like, what are you doing? And then I'm going, no, I genuinely think it'll come back at some point. And I don't think we've got to that level yet whereby we've felt enough personal pain. We need our whole businesses to be liquidated, completely destroyed. Everything, we've not reached that point yet. But then again, will we reach that point? Is the space a lot stronger than what it was back in 2018? In the Eurozone right now, I think there is so much pro-crypto regulation. I think that especially not even necessarily in the Eurozone, but Dubai is becoming so much of a good place to go for people that hold cryptocurrencies. And I think that the West is now scared of what is going on in the East, and the fact that the East is taking back somewhat a lot of liquidity from the crypto markets, and a lot of rich people are going there and not paying any tax in the countries of which the governments here want. Obviously, you pay your taxes here. So I think that we're making pro crypto regulation here. And this is aside from what is going on in the traditional markets. In terms of crypto specific, I think we're looking pretty good in Europe right now. But on the whole, no, things absolutely dreadful. Like this is not this bad in like since I've known about finance. Like,
yeah. Looking at the chat, a lot of people like you to get into Algo, ADA, and Gala. It seems like a lot of coins with A. If A's in it, Adam. Okay, so if the A is in there, they're good to go. All right. Well, speaking of good alts, I like BNB, but the price action, is definitely way down. I have a tweet that I wanted to show. They froze withdrawals. Binance has temporarily paused Bitcoin withdrawals on the BTC network. However, you can still withdraw BTC on other networks, aka wrapped ETH, BTC and whatnot. Took about 3 hours, and then network withdrawals have now resumed. Obviously Binance has had certain issues in the recent past. They have subpoenas coming out. There's a lot of SEC talk. A lot of people are saying, are they insolvent? However, they just keep growing. They just keep growing and growing. Arcane Bear, one of our international players here, they got 90 million users. They're in 150 countries. Before, we were talking about the banks that are too big to fail. Is BNB a Lehman Brothers, perhaps? Are they too big to fail at this point?
Well, I think too big to fail is probably always the wrong way to look at something. Big things fail almost inevitably in any shape of nature that you look at it. So if you were to all of a sudden see something that went against the laws of nature like that, it would be pretty profound. So it will fail inevitably. In fact, all of this will. I mean, we could get a little doom and gloom on that idea, but technically ideas are always evolving. And through time, we see a lot of birth and then, I guess, death of different ideas. And I think what's interesting is Binance is a massive ecosystem. A lot of people highly doubted the BNB token based off utility for saving or for staking, a lot of things that they were able to provide. Now, I don't know a whole lot about their like back end balance sheet, or specifically what went wrong when they said that something about how a block being that like maybe they put a transaction and they had a block of transactions that they thought had gone through and it didn't, so they had to revisit a bunch of conversations, because the user experience is probably much different than what you get in the back end, the development conversation, how they're dealing with their funds. So I don't know, I would imagine that they have enough capital to play around in this ecosystem. So things like this are probably more technical glitches, but it also highlights a very important factor of if you don't have like physical storage of your assets of almost any kind, you really own that asset. Normally with property, we would look at that as a societal contract, like, is where I own my property stable, right? Because you may live in a country that is one day not stable, and now that asset is not worth what you thought it was because the people that own the deeds are not like as reliable as they were before. So the word of law, the social contract, is often what holds up some of our more physically based assets, whereas with Bitcoin, we're relying on that technical aspect. So first off, I think just to clarify, what happened on their technical backend was probably something like they approved a block that didn't go through, so they had to revisit a bunch of transactions. Again, I'm not a tech person, but I don't think they're insolvent. And the BNB token did really well based off its utility. Like, not holding it wasn't a great idea. I think understanding risk, could BNB go to zero? Sure. There's systemic risk in almost any third party type of idea because of the nature of business. It grows really big and then it collapses. But overall, I don't think Binance has grown too big to be on the verge of collapse quite yet.
All right, two things there. One, you were pretty much right with the technical issue. Here, I'm just going to read the first part of this first tweet. We're repairing several minor hardware failures on wallet consolidation nodes earlier today. So it looked like a hardware-based issue. And just for those freaking out saying, oh my God, Arcane Bear said everything is going to collapse. He means the heat death of the universe. We're billions of years away from that.
Yes.
It's okay. You can calm down here. All right, but Ben, back to, the value proposition of BNB, like Arcane Bear said, it is a highly valued coin, currently number 5 in the coin market cap, well ahead of its other peers in that number 6, 7, 8 spot, the XRP, the Solana, and the Cardano. Just to look at it real quick, 35.7 billion. Do you see them changing that ranking anytime soon? Can BNB stay a top 5 coin, maybe even move into a 3 or number 4 spot? Or are they going to be out of the top 10 eventually? What's your take maybe by the top of the next bull run?
Well, there's only one way they fall out of top 10. And that is if, and I don't even really see this happening at all, but if the SEC were to come at them similar to how they came at Ripple, and all of a sudden a bunch of exchanges were to start delisting it, and somehow Binance itself has to delist its own coin, then maybe. But I don't think that's happening, obviously, because even though the SEC has long arms and they can touch any country in the world, that doesn't mean that they can force Binance to delist its own coin in Singapore or in a different country. So I don't see that happening. The reason why Ripple has been absolutely crushed is because it's an American company and they're able to go right at them and they're able to delist them on American exchanges. So look, Binance is here to say the idea that Binance is insolvent is one of the biggest jokes I ever heard in my life. There's nobody, only God himself has more money than Binance, I believe. So I think that thinking about it being insolvent is laughable. And it's going to stay look, it's way better than Solana. Like, there's no doubt about that at this point. The blockchain works a lot better. It is a rife home to a lot of scammers and a lot of scam projects and rug pulls that have been on BNB. But I think we're kind of, during the bear markets, that stuff thins out because there's not as much opportunity for the scammers because we're all poor. So thank you to the Bitcoin gods for making us all poor again. But yeah, I think it is a big competitor. I think eventually, I think, Cardano or XRP can pass it. But I think more of it's going to be this game here. This is what it's always been. It's always been this game. It's been like Binance down to number 4, down to number 5. And of course, we're not counting stable coins here. Down to number 5, XRP up to number 3. XRP passed Cardano in 2008, or XRP passed Ethereum in 2018, maybe 2019 for a brief period. You generally will see a lot of fluctuation in that 3, 4, 5. And I think we'll continue to see that fluctuation. But Binance Coin's here to say it ain't going anywhere. CZ is here. He ain't going to prison. Do a lot of people want to play ball with him? Not necessarily. May that have like a large compound effect down the road? Maybe. But Binance is a behemoth in the space and they ain't going anywhere.
All right. Well, speaking of behemoth, there's a behemoth of a lawsuit out against them. There is a class action lawsuit. Now, Martini Guy, it's over the UST returns, and it's after the Binance US and the Binance US CEO, Brian Schroeder. Now, this is a large class action lawsuit. Still, we don't know what's going to happen with this, but what do you think? Do you think anything will come from this lawsuit against Binance US, or is this just disgruntled investors that, might need to just lick their wounds?
You Americans just love suing people, don't you? You just can't get enough of it. It's like, oh yeah, let's just sue a guy because
don't even get us started what happened with a
he farted or
vehicle
something
and
like
a
that.
$5.3
They're
million payout recently. But yeah.
Oh, there we go. It skipped out then. Very, very keen on suing people in America compared to in Europe. We don't really sue because, I mean, I don't understand what the proof would. I think the proof for the requirement for suing somebody in this particular case would be unimaginable. It'd be too difficult to. It's not Binance's fault that UST happened. Binance did push Luna though, and I think that could be the angle of which they could be got. But I think at the same time, I mean, we all lost money on Luna. I mean, not well, Luna or UST. Odds are that you were probably invested in it, or you at least knew somebody that was invested in it. I myself, I'm down solidly $2 million the past kind of 3 weeks on both Luna and UST combined. Like, it's been quite horrific, to say the least. But do I feel sad about that? No, not. I just get on with it. Let's just always just get on with it. It's always the best way. And if anybody did lose money in either of those two things, get on with it. If you give up now, you're harboring and taking that loss, and you should never take the loss and accept that you've lost money. You keep going and never give up, and eventually you'll make it. Just look at BitBoy. Like, I mean, back in the day, BitBoy, I never thought would make it, but look at him now. He's like nearly not number one anymore, but yeah, pretty close. Still,
I'm number one in America.
In America. Well, actually, who is number one in the world right now?
Yeah.
We don't say his name.
He's a paid actor, Coin Bureau. Well,
some guy.
It's an affiliate company that you know, claims to be for the people, but their entire business model is about making affiliate money. That's the whole point that they were founded upon. And they hired a paid actor to come in and talk crypto who doesn't actually know anything about crypto. But I digress. That's just truth. Those are facts. Like, those are facts. That's all well proven. That's not conjecture. But good for him. They know how to get traffic. And they literally have a traffic company that creates traffic. That's why they continue to grow while nobody else does. But you know what? Good for him. Insane. Good for them. He seems like a guy.
Okay.
Right. Well, you know, all right.
No,
okay. Moving on here, final on this topic here. Now, Joe, there's a lot of FUD around Binance. We have class action lawsuits. You know, we have people going after the U.S. CEO. We have, you know, temporary with suspension of withdrawals here. So a whole lot of noise surrounding it. However, they keep expanding. They just got a new partner payments platform. They just got a bunch more expansions with new coins. They're upgrading to the Firo network. So new networks, new coins, new expansion, new countries, new hires. Can this continue? Are they going to be an outlier while all these other companies start laying off people that we'll get into in a second? They can continue to expand, or will the brakes be hit on this eventually?
I think that, you know, what Ben said, you know, they got really deep pockets. That solves a lot of problems, right? And going back to the Bitcoin transaction, I want to tell a story because I think it's really relevant to this. When I was really new to crypto, like back in 2017, 2018, I sent Bitcoin over to Binance and it got stuck for like over a day. And I remember when I sent that transaction, like it wasn't going through, it didn't hit my Binance account, and I was like freaking out. I was like, did I send it to the wrong address? What happened? And I was like brand new to this, and it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough for me to kind of like pay attention to. And I remember like trying to find like Binance support and there was a bunch of scammers and a bunch of stuff in there. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the Bitcoin network can have these little issues like this, and it's kind of slow at times, especially when there's like a lot of, you know, money flying around the network, right? People are selling, buying, trading, doing all of this. It can be really slow. So if you're new to crypto, and especially Bitcoin, you're trying to buy it or trade it or move it around, especially to Binance or any of these exchanges, like you got to really understand and have a strategy for yourself of like what you're going to do with your crypto in case something happens. I think that people are panicking, and when they panic, they make a lot more mistakes, right? And I think that this little halt, while it might have been just, you know, more of a technical issue rather than anything serious, I think that it could have spooked a lot of people, and then maybe they're just like, oh, well, you know, if Binance, this happened, oh my gosh, I'm just selling it, I'm getting rid of this, I'm getting out of this. But, you know, is Binance here to stay, DZ? I definitely think so. And they have the pockets, they're deep. They are expanding. Personally, like on Binance US, it's super user friendly. I think it's one of my favorites to just like, you know, and the reason why I moved that Bitcoin over there is to get all those altcoins, right? Because they have such a variety of altcoins and different options for you. So, and there's a lot of other platforms that are trying to mimic themselves like after Binance. So personally, I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. I think BNB is up towards the top for a reason. And it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out, though.
Yeah, I love BNB. Just for full disclosure, I love Pancake Swap, for instance, as far as, you know, usage. And maybe when I get those gaming tokens and I got to put my slippage in the double digits, not a big fan of that, but you know what? I knew that getting into it. All right, let's move on to the last topic real quick. Super chat from Crypto Billy. Watch NFT Alpha, best NFT review in crypto. I think, yeah, but maybe I'm biased. All right, moving on. Crypto layoffs. Not a BitBoy crypto, though. BlockFi, Crypto.com, and Coinbase all announced layoffs. BlockFi slashing 20%, close to 1,000 people, 850. Crypto.com laying off 260 people. Coinbase slashing 18%, said 1,100 employees are going to be affected by this decision. Last that we checked, they had about 4,900 on their payroll. So, seeing basically 20% off across multiple companies. Also, Gemini, Mercado Bitcoin, and Bitso have also laid off at least 10% of their workforce in the past month. So we're seeing just swaths of layoffs across the board in the crypto sector. Now, Arcane Bear, do you think that this is perhaps a leading indicator and that there's going to be more pain and maybe they know something that we don't? Or is this more of a lagging indicator? Oh my God, Bitcoin's $22,000. We got to, tighten the belt here.
Well, I guess it depends on what companies you look at. I'm a big fan of venture capital. If you look at all the games that just got funded, they're flush and hiring right now. In fact, if you're a developer and have any experience with games or community development, there's a ton of games that just raised a bunch of money to start building. So I guess it depends where you look. Crypto.com, for instance, probably hired very aggressively and then found out that there was a bunch of redundancies within their hiring. Coinbase probably did the same. I think it was something that kind of Sam from FTX had pointed out as well, is that when you're going through these big bull market runs, when you scale, you're often hiring too many people, and then you have like overhang effectively. So when you have to be leaner, most of the time these companies that were making big chunks of money like Crypto.com, they start to expand their workforce, but not their output force effectively. Whereas most companies that are smaller, like ourselves and the BitBoy Show, you guys, we already run quite lean anyways. Like I'm trying to work less. I'm not trying to bring more work to my table right now. The fun part is the things we do outside of work. So effectively, I think it depends on what part of the industry you look at. Again, billions of dollars that just came in from venture capital to build in the game and Web3 sector and in Web3 in general. But if you're in that area, they're hiring aggressively. So I think it depends where you look at. But at the economy at large is in a really interesting place. That's a whole other conversation. I think one could fall down a rabbit hole into. Aside from it, this is again why we try to focus on video games and our personal interest of video game investments at the moment. But the rest of the people that are laying off are dealing with, yes, there's interest rates raising means a lot of companies that were kind of running as zombie companies that weren't really aggressively making capital enough to continue to hire properly anyways will start to lay off again. Those people went like Revlon, I think, just went bankrupt or something. So you're seeing really old companies go by the wayside here throughout this process already. And again, if you look at Netflix, most of the big tech companies, they've all dropped back down to previous below highs throughout 2017, 2016. So almost a decade of highs has been wiped out for some of these companies. So it's a really aggressive strategy depending on what type of industry you're in, where if you're in the Web3 sector, again, there's a lot of money floating around, I think. But Crypto.com specifically, these would have been companies that hired too aggressively, too quickly, but didn't have the output to match and are now kind of scaling back to fit that.
All right. Well, you mentioned, the broader job market is a rabbit hole. Well, Ben, let's go down that rabbit hole. We're seeing this in the crypto market for sure. Will this continue to expand into the regular job market, at least in this nation?
Yeah, I think that we're certainly going to see that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I was actually on Yahoo Finance earlier today. People can go see the clip on my timeline on Twitter talking about this exact thing, just specifically in terms of these crypto companies. Just like I talked about it this morning on the live stream, like, look, we look at holidays as seasonal employment. You work for November, December at the mall or Walmart or whatever they overhire. Crypto's the same, except it works in a 4-year cycle. And these companies know that the volume is going to spike and then it's going to go down. So they prepare by hiring people that they know in the future they'll cut. The only difference is when someone signs up for seasonal employment at the mall, they understand they're signing up for seasonal employment. Whereas if you signed up to work at Coinbase, if you left a big job to go work at Coinbase, you may not understand that when the volume drops, they're going to be letting people go. But this certainly is going to extend into the regular market. And I think that's a really important point, though, that I made, because when you ask Arcane Bear, about this, and you asked, whether or not this is a lagging indicator. No, or this is an indicator of what's going to happen. No, this is just an indicator that people around crypto understand this 4-year cycle. That's what it's an indicator of. That's why they overhire in those times. It's an indicator as well, in my opinion, that we're going to see sideways action for a while. They don't expect the price to bottom and volume to pick up. This is all about volume and transactions is what this is about. But guys, when you head to a deflationary time as we are heading to, you get hiring freezes. Crypto is feeling it the most because we've actually decoupled from the NASDAQ on the way down. We've dropped considerably more than the NASDAQ has dropped in the last month at least. And so what you're seeing here is you're seeing a precursor in the crypto industry to what you're about to see across the board. And we talked about it on the show this morning. Guys, this idea that everybody can just pick any remote job and make 25% more whenever you want to, that's over. The guy on the live stream that talked about this morning says he runs a large company, and there is no question productivity itself. We talked about the creativity and the synergy that you lose with the remote working. Productivity drops 15%. And I know that for a fact because, look, I love my employees here at BitBoy Crypto. I never throw them under the bus. But when me and TJ are out of the office, everybody leaves an hour early. What do you think that means for the greater populace at large when everybody's working a remote? Don't sit here and tell me when you switch to a remote job that you're working the exact same amount of hours that you would be working if you were in the building. You can focus more heavily on your output, which we're focused on output. That's why we don't want everybody leaving early, but we care that stuff gets done. That's what we care about. We don't nickel and dime people about that stuff. But this idea that this is an employee's market, not an employer's market, is coming to an end in the next year. It's common sense, people. Who's in control? The people doing the work or the people offering the work? Yeah. Throughout history, it is proven it's the people offering the work, not the people doing it.
Two things. I wanted to give you 50 points for saying everybody leaves an hour early. I restrained myself. And make sure you watch that Yahoo Finance interview today. I watched it. It was really good. It was a real good point I wanted to share. You said the 85% drawdown or the previous all-time high is going to be the low. One of them is going to be right. One of them is going to be wrong. One of these theories is dead forever. So, yeah, definitely check it out. It's pretty good points in there. All right, now, Martini Guy, cutting your workforce, I don't think anyone could say, it's under most circumstances is a great thing. Do you think that perhaps in this case, though, it can perhaps be a good thing? Maybe keep some of these, whether it's an exchange, whether it's a protocol, keep them alive longer, keep them, even if it's the Walking Dead zombie style, get them into the next bull market? Or is this just, delaying the inevitable and they're all going to, go down like Carl?
I think cutting is good in business. I only had one employee until I reached a net worth of $10 million. Like, you don't need people to make money. You just need good ideas. And I think that gets lost in a bull market where you go, I need help. I need help. I need help. I now have 30 plus employees. We're not making anyone redundant either because we make money. Like, we don't need, and also the capital that we built up, we looked after and made sure that we've got enough runtime within that capital that we build up to make sure that we don't just like go bust.